So there's two big things that I had planned to talk about in this podcast. Yeah. One is our go-to-market efficiency pyramid, which we use to help CROs figure out how they can identify quick wins, low-hanging fruit, and immediate impact in their business in terms of generating more revenue through go-to-market. And also how that translates into what everybody's trying to do with AI and what foundations we need in place to actually get impact from those AI tools that we are building and implementing and adopting.
GTM AI podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM AI podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is I, Coach K, Jonathan Kvarfordt. I'm really excited today because I have someone on the line who, he doesn't know this, but I've been following him and geeking out to his stuff for years. And I tried not to be too much of a fanboy when we finally got to talk. And I think I did a good job pretending, but I'm going to be let all out in the open because I'm a huge fan of our guest today, Mr. Eddie Reynolds, who is the CEO founder of Union Square Consulting. Yes. And the host of the GTM Science podcast. So good to have you, my friend. How are you?
Good. Intimidated. I mean, massive imposter syndrome here. Like, you put out amazing content at scale, and I feel the same, my friend.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I just tell people all the time I'm just a bald dude in the basement just having fun. So, it's just what happens. But I'm so excited to have you. So first, before we get into crazy things, like you have a very robust RevOps background. You've been in sales as well. And now all you do is consulting for obviously RevOps and then for CRO leadership on different things. I'd love to get a take from you on, if you don't mind introducing yourself and obviously telling what you do now, but then tell me the non-resume version of who Eddie is and how you got to where you got to be and kind of tell me your story.
Oh man, like the non-resume version, it's like, where do you start? I don't know, like I really love
traveling.
Born. Yeah, I was born on a farm in Indiana. No, that's my mom. I was born not on a farm in Indiana. And I've always loved travel and languages. I spent a lot of time living abroad in Europe. I spent a year living and working in India in my 20s. I met my wife in Argentina. I speak decent Spanish, not that great Italian, really terrible French. And I don't know, I'm just a curious person. I'm always curious about what's going on in the world, and I wish I had infinite amounts of time to travel around and learn things.
That's awesome. And you're expecting, when this comes out, will be past, be expecting another baby in literally a few days, which is so exciting. Congrats.
Yeah. And if that baby learns English, that'll be even better. Right now, my daughter is just solo Spanish.
Really?
She's
solo
like,
Spanish?
Yeah, she just points her finger. She's like, so, agua. And so, yeah. But fun story, if I'm not getting too off track, went to Spain with some friends, one of my good buddies from my hometown. And like my wife kept saying agua, agua to our daughter, and his daughter, who's like 5, now 6, I think, picked it up, started saying it all the time. And now they have another daughter that's almost the same age as our daughter. And now the only word she knows for water is also agua. So
nice. That's awesome. I love it. I was going to tell you a story. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, my kids learned French first. And so when they first were growing up, they just spoke French, and I don't speak a lick of French. I know a little bit. So I knew conceptually what they would say when they point to things. But besides that, I was like, I have no idea what you're saying. So they had to learn English because they were pretty much brought up in French. And now they're kind of both good dual, but it took some time, So I get it. Totally get it.
It's so awesome, though.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm learning French slowly. It's just taking some time. I'm not as smart as they are, so it's okay. Well, tell me this. How did you get into the whole, like RevOps? Obviously, you did RevOps as a profession. What made you want to do your own thing and do the consulting side?
Well, yes and no. I had a short stint in RevOps. I've spent my entire career in sales. I still sell. I spend more of my time marketing right now here on a podcast, hoping that this has some impact on our marketing funnel in some way, shape, or form, even though this is also just something I just love doing. But I think in some ways I feel like an imposter in RevOps because I haven't spent 10 years as a VP of RevOps, although I have spent 10 years building and running this company now. But on the flip side, I've been carrying a bag my whole life. And to this day, if we don't sell, I don't pay my rent. And I think that makes things very real in a way that I find valuable, that I can think through the lens of how is this actually going to translate into us generating revenue, whether it's via sales activities or marketing activities, from that lens, as well as also thinking from the ops perspective of how can we do this more efficiently and more profitably. Because I think when I look at RevOps professionals that have never carried a bag, I think one of the challenges is it's all theoretical to them. And then salespeople that have never really understood ops, it's all hustle. And they don't understand where they're wasting time and energy, focusing that energy on the wrong things. And, I think I've had a nice opportunity to find a balance between those two.
Yeah, what I appreciate about what you're saying is because I'm not saying about all RevOps. Most RevOps people I've worked with who usually have some sort of sales background, but having that empathy and understanding some of the pains that go into it is like so crucial of what's going on. I spent most of my time in enablement before I went to marketing, so it's just having the understanding of what the heck actually happens. You have to carry a bag and the stress and the flows and the 50 tools you have to use and all that stuff is just another beast. So yeah, kind of crazy.
Well, and for me, it's not even just empathy. It's like sometimes, like, I have a friend who's a fellow CEO, and we may have this inside joke of like, make more sales calls, like everybody's just make more sales calls, make more sales calls. But
Right.
sometimes that's the answer. Like sometimes like just hustling and trying to make stuff happen, it actually makes stuff happen. Like it can't all be spreadsheets and theory.
Before I ask you the question, I want to ask you, why is that? Why is it that the theory rules the day and we don't get more nitty gritty? Because people don't know? It's because they don't know how to communicate it? Like, what is it?
I think that go-to-market is inherently an unscientific endeavor. I think that like we are not operating at a scale where we have massively large data sets, hundreds of thousands of customers that are all the same that we can go after, and thousands of reps and hundreds of thousands of calls. Like it's not pure science. And even when you work in an organization like that, I spent 3 years at Salesforce. That's as close to that as it gets. At the end of the day, like you're sitting there and you're facing a customer and they have unique challenges and unique motivations and they're a unique emotional human being, and you're just trying to figure out like, how do I get this deal done? And when I think about that, it goes across go-to-market. When I think about like, how are we investing our money in marketing? Is this podcast a good use of my time and yours? Is it not? What are the other things that we're doing? The $50,000 I spent out of my own pocket on our website, was that a good investment? You're always operating with imperfect data, and you just at the end of the day have to make a decision.
Yeah, I think what's funny about that is the one lesson I learned from my MBA was to be more data driven, because I'm definitely I lean more towards my gut on things, but knowing more about the data, I think, helps inform my gut decisions. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So, yeah, kind of crazy. Well, tell me this: with your RevOps stuff, you're coming a little bit different angle because you're obviously a consultant with different teams. What can a listener expect to get out of listening to the rest of us pontificating together?
So there's two big things that I had planned to talk about in this podcast.
Yeah.
One is our go-to-market efficiency pyramid, which we use to help CROs figure out how they can identify quick wins, low-hanging fruit, and immediate impact in their business in terms of generating more revenue through go-to-market. And also how that translates into what everybody's trying to do with AI and what foundations we need in place to actually get impact from those AI tools that we are building and implementing and adopting. And so this is a model that we've built over the years and refined again and again, and it's helped us internally, not just our clients, to figure out what's the first thing that needs to be fixed in go-to-market before the next thing. And it's different for every company. But we've built this model to try to help us figure that out, and I was excited to talk to you about it. And also to kind of bounce this off of you to think through, now that everybody is trying to implement AI in every area of the business and every area of go-to-market, what fundamentals do we need to have in place in order to make that actually work?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. You share this stuff on LinkedIn, so I've seen kind of like angles of it, but I've been looking forward to having you kind of take me through it. So where do you want to start? You want to dig in?
Yeah, wherever you want. I mean, I could just launch into talking about it, or you can ask me a specific question, whatever you prefer.
You have that visual we can walk through? Is that okay?
I do. Yeah. Is it helpful if I share my screen with you?
Please, yes, please.
Yeah, let me just go ahead and put this into reading mode real quick. Give me 1 second here. All right. And then I will share this. Okay. Now, what I will say is, in creating this framework, we had to draw some lines in the sand, and these are arbitrary lines. But I hope that this is coming close enough to like an order of operation that people can think through and think, this is a prerequisite for the next thing, and I can see why that next thing is not going to work without it. So we start at the base of the pyramid with the fundamentals. And the fundamentals for me is, what do our sales reps specifically, but really anybody in go-to-market, need in order to just do their jobs effectively, right? So I'm a sales rep. I walk into my new job on day one. I need a CRM in place, right? But I don't just need a CRM. We need to know who's our customer, what's our ICP and our buyer personas. We need to map out the process to go after that customer, and that's different in different parts of go-to-market. So our outbound process is one thing. How we qualify and work sales opportunities is another. How we qualify and handle inbound leads is another. How we do, uncover expansion sales is another. What's that step-by-step process? Who should we be targeting? What's the buyer journey that we want to deliver, and how do we deliver it to them? And then, of course, we've got the tools that we need and the data that we need to actually go do that. If we don't have those fundamentals in place, by definition, you hire a new sales rep, or you are a new sales rep, and you walk in on day one, you're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be using your time inefficiently by calling the wrong folks, the wrong messaging, reaching out in the wrong way, when the organization knows better because they've done it better before. But a lot of times what we see is this is not codified and not documented and not trained across the team. And so people are basically trying to figure out their own fundamentals, their own process. Once we have that in place, the biggest thing for me is driving adoption. So, okay, we know what we need to do. How do we get the entire sales team to go do that thing? If this is how we qualify a deal, how do we make sure that every sales rep on our team knows how to qualify a deal and they're only putting deals into the pipeline that are qualified? If this is how we do outbound, how do we know that they're actually doing that? And that to me is the hardest part. I could just stop right there and I feel like we could end the podcast, and that would be enough for most CROs and most go-to-market teams to make massive impact in their organization if they're not there yet. If they are, now this gives us the opportunity to go into optimization. Now we've got accurate data that we can trust, excuse me, and we can start to analyze that data and see what's working and what's not working. And then lastly, we have acceleration, and this is where we put AI, but I will caveat this and say it's not the only place that AI goes. But we think we've got this motion working. When I say this motion, I mean outbound or inbound or expansion or our pipeline management. We've got that kind of figured out. We've got the fundamentals and adoption in place, and it's working. It may not be perfect, but it's working. Now we're starting to optimize it. But now we can also ask, how could we accelerate this? How could we use AI, automation, other things to amplify what's working and get more out of this foundation that we've built? And I'll stop right there, and I'll allow you to ask some questions before I drone on.
No questions yet. I like where you're going. I'm curious, what are you using as the marker? Is it just the task completed, or how do you know this is set up in the correct way for different orgs? Just tasks being done and that's it? Collection of items, or what do you do?
No, so I think for me, obviously ICP and personas, customer journey, go-to-market process, that, kind of ends up becoming documentation, as unexciting as that is, right? Then it gets implemented into the system. So now we've got a system that reflects the documentation that we have. But for me, where the rubber really meets the road is that we see our team actually executing these actions and it's showing up in reports. So for example, it's a simple question. Okay, we've done all these things to figure out how we're going to manage our qualified sales pipeline. Simple question to a CRO. When you look at your pipeline right now, do you feel that's an accurate reflection of the deals that you might actually be able to close? That's it. It's that simple.
Never know. How many people say yes to that?
More people say yes to that than they should. Because then I'll ask follow-up questions. I'll ask, okay, what's your close rate? Oh yeah, our pipeline's really clean, but our close rate's 10%. And that doesn't check. How many deals do you have in your pipeline right now that are more than 2x your average sales cycle? So let's say it takes 60 days to close a deal. How many deals do you have in your pipeline that are 121, 125, 150 days old? Because I can tell you right now, those deals are never going to close, ever.
Right.
So, you start to press buttons here and it's okay, this starts to fall apart. But what I will say is, and I don't want to try to say Salesforce is the most amazing company ever. I think people, if anybody's been following my LinkedIn feed, I've said quite the opposite recently. But when I worked at Salesforce, we had very clean pipeline. It wasn't perfect, but it was clean. And that's because management was doing exactly this thing. They were constantly on top of it.
I was going to ask you some of your spicy takes on this, but we won't get there yet. We'll save that for later. So keep going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to go next? I can keep droning on, but let me know if you have questions.
No, let's keep going. You're doing great.
Okay, so let's say that we've got this clean pipeline in place. And for me, that's step number one. Now, when I talk to CROs, a lot of times I get this pushback of, we need to generate more pipeline. We need to generate more pipeline. Okay, cool. Let's go fix your outbound process. If, however, we don't know what a qualified deal is and we don't trust our pipeline, but I go and I help you fix your outbound process and we say, okay, we generated $30 million in outbound pipeline this quarter. Do you trust that number? Does that mean anything? So to me, I want to get the pipeline fixed first. And then secondarily, I want to go close more of these deals we're already generating before I put time and effort into adding even more deals to the top of the funnel. but we can do both at the same time. So let's say that we have our outbound process. I want to see, I'll give you just like a generic example. Let's say we have 1,000 named accounts that we want to go after, and I'm a big fan of going after very specific accounts. And we need to call them 5 times and email them 5 times and send 5 LinkedIn messages. Okay, well, do we have a way to track that? Like, do we have, here's the 1,000 accounts, this is the stage that each of them are in. Here's the ones that are in the, we tried but didn't work, whatever you want to call that. Did we call, email, and send 5 LinkedIn DMs to every single contact that we wanted to go after in each of those accounts? Because I can't tell you how many times I pull up these reports and it's like, oh yeah, we worked these leads, even hot inbound hand raiser leads, and it's like, we reached out twice and then gave up. Well, what was the point of that?
Right. I've been fascinated by this whole target thing, but keep going.
I'm just saying, so like, it can be as simple as we have a report and we're seeing the data that we want to see in that report. And we have a management cadence where frontline management reviews those reports on a regular basis, and they give reps feedback. Hey, like, I saw that you gave up on this account too easily. I saw that this deal went into pipeline and I don't think it's really qualified. Like, let's move that out of pipeline until XYZ is met. And then obviously, you of all people know that there are these amazing AI tools out there that can like read our call transcripts and look at our emails and help us fill in this information and help give management more visibility into this stuff with less time and admin work on the reps part. But this to me is like the foundation of the pyramid. And then now we have accurate data. Now I'll just run with this outbound and pipeline management example. Now we can start to say, okay, like, how many calls did we make? How many meetings did we set up? How much pipeline did we generate? How much did we close? What's working? What's not? What if we slice and dice that? Like, do we target 2 different industries? Is one industry working better than the other? Is one type of customer better than the other? Is one persona? And we get to start doing analysis to figure out what's working and what's not working. And I can't tell you how many times I talk to organizations where they want to do this right now, and it's like you open up the reports and it's just complete junk data. And part of that can be solved with AI. Tools like Momentum are really great for this. But if you have, and I'll push this back on you and I'll ask you as the expert at Momentum how this works. My hypothesis here is you're not going to just get this magical result from a tool like Momentum if you haven't thought through who your ICP and your buyer personas are, what your sales methodology is, what things you should be looking for in these call transcripts to update Salesforce.
Yeah, it's many times we'd have people come into Momentum and say, hey, I want to automate a sales process. And I say, great, what's your sales process? They go, we don't know. I'm like, well, I can't automate it. So it's like it's not a magical tool that decides on your go-to-market strategy. It's a vehicle to get you to the destination, but you've got to know where the heck you're starting and where the heck you're going, and they can get you there. You know what I mean? So like in this example, like Momentum could absolutely do what's called a batch product, where you go into all of your calls from the past and batch all the information. So you go back forward and put it back into your CRM. So you have all your past data and then current data. It's awesome. Problem is though, if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know what you're trying to get out of the customer conversations, or what's important to you with exit criteria, or it's ICP, like all this stuff is just lost, and you're missing so much stuff you could have gotten in the first place. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, absolutely. I was hoping you'd agree with me here. I was going out on a limb and giving you the opportunity to shoot down everything I just said, but that's exactly what I'm trying to say here. So once we get this foundation in place, we've got this amazing set of data, and I'm a big proponent of like, let's remove the admin work for the reps. Let's use a tool like Momentum. Let's sync the email. Let's enrich our data with whatever tool, whether it's Zoom Info or Clay or whatever, and let's get this rich data set in our CRM and our other tools, and then let's allocate the right people with the right amount of time. That's heads down time where they're protected, they can do deep work, and they can start to really look at the analytics. And then we can use AI for that as well. And we start to see patterns in the data, what's working, what's not working, and then this can ultimately end up being a go-to-market or a pipeline council meeting, whatever you want to call it, where we bring in sales leaders, marketing leaders, CS leaders, product potentially, finance, CRO, CEO, et cetera, and we say, this is what the data is telling us. This is what's working. This is not what's not working. And let's decide right now in this meeting what we want to do about it. Do we want to double down on this motion? Do we want to invest more money in ads? Do we want to retrain our team on this thing that's not working as well as we'd hoped it would work? What action do we want to take coming out of this meeting to improve? And if we have a regular meeting like that, where somebody, ideally, the leader of RevOps, does all this deep analysis and then brings this to the team and says, this is where I think we might want to go, but like, you guys are the sales, marketing, CS leaders, finance leaders, product leaders, you tell, like, let's decide together what we're going to do next. That to me, like you've got like this really well-oiled machine when you do that repeatedly. And then now you can take that and then amplify that with a million different examples in AI, automation, or other things that are sort of advanced order operations.
Well, agreed. All right, keep going. Let's keep going. Next step. What's next?
That's it. That's the whole thing.
Oh, cool. There was
Yeah.
you on LinkedIn. You shared a couple different visuals. Like there was, hang on, I can't read this thing. There was the basic frequency or the framework, and then there's like, I think it.
Oh, so we broke this down by each motion as well. So I don't know if you wanted me to go into that level of detail, but this is actually version 3 you're looking at. The version 1 was just like one pyramid, right? And then I forget what we did with version 2. And then version 3, like we broke this down. So for example, we also have the outbound efficiency pyramid where we got into like really granular specifics on like how do you do this specifically for outbound.
Yeah. Do you feel, using a framework like this, do you feel like it gives some guidance? Because like I would imagine most people, like you said, are doing more theory and they don't have some of the specifics that they need because, I mean, no offense to CROs I've known, but I've known a lot of CROs who are VP of sales and didn't have the back end guts because they had someone doing the back end guts for them. You know what I mean? So is that accurate? What do you think? Am I off my rocker?
Forgive me, I'm not sure if I quite understand the question.
For a CRO that you walk into and you start to help them with, do they have any semblance of this at all? Or is it mostly like kind of a duct tape put together version? Does that make sense?
I think there's a complete spectrum, right? Like I've yet to meet a CRO that doesn't understand that we should know who our ICP and our buyer personas are, but they may or may not have that prioritized as the next thing that they need to do. I think for me, like this is something that we have worked on and chewed on and iterated for years and years. We've literally built our entire company and service around this, and we've built this around our entire company and service. So this is like this virtuous cycle that we keep learning and iterating on this. So I think like I'm a big fan of frameworks in general because it's just, okay, you've like taken years of experience and you try to crystallize these thoughts. And then even when you do that, you look at it and you're like, oh, we could change this and this. And that's exactly what we've done here. So I don't see any CROs that are like, oh my God, like this is crazy. But there's certain things like in the outbound pyramid, for example, where we talk about capacity planning. That's new information for a lot of people. It makes perfect sense to them when we explain it. We say, look, like your rep only has so much time in the day. If you want them to call this contact 5 times and email them 5 times and send them a LinkedIn DM 5 times, and you want them to do a bunch of research and all these other things before they do that instead of just spraying and praying, well, how many of those activities can they do in a day? Okay, well, you want to cover 3 or 4 different contacts in each account? Okay, well, I can just do the math. X number of activities per day, X number of activities per contact, X number of contacts per account. Here's the number of accounts that they can cover in a year. If that number is, let's say 200, which to me is like a magic number, it always is around 200, and you give me 2,000 accounts, what happens? There's 2 options. Option 1 is I just call 200 random accounts and I'm going to miss 90% of the top 10% of accounts in there. And 90% of the accounts I call are going to be subpar accounts. Or I can do what I did when I was a sales rep and I'm like, I'm going to go geek out in Excel and I'm going to do a bunch of data analytics. And this is not what you want sales reps doing, even if they're good at it. And most of them aren't very good at it.
Right. I'm curious, like, how are you leveraging AI for this? Have you created anything in like Claude Code, anything like that, so you can come into an org, hook up their stuff and kind of do this analysis pretty quick? Or is it more just a matter of just consulting and asking a ton of questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant work in process for us, but a lot of this stuff is a lot simpler than it sounds. Like the capacity planning I just went through, I mean, most people will know how many activities a rep can do in a day if they're doing the activities right. Like it doesn't take a monumental lift to figure that out. It's not that difficult to figure out, well, how many contacts should we call on an account before we give up on the account? So this can be done pretty quickly. A lot of this stuff, I mean, we'll come into an account and we'll get a good chunk of the pyramid done for like 2 different motions, like let's say pipeline management and outbound in the first 90 days. In addition to like building the systems and building the reporting and training everybody and getting like, it doesn't have to be a heavy lift.
What do you feel like then is the things that, of all the people you've helped with, is there a pattern? What's the patterns that people are missing? Is it just, again, defining the basics and foundational stuff? Or what do you find to be the thing? I would say both with go-to-market and then with AI. Like, what's the patterns of things you say, okay, CRO, if I could talk to you and had a message from lots of these, what is that?
The biggest thing for me, and unfortunately I think this is a little bit above my pay grade in the way that we work with our clients, is focus. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a client, and they're like, we're targeting 14 different industries. We've got 10 different products. We've got 50 different geos. And it's like, how many sales reps do you have? About that many sales reps. I don't know how you get good at all of those things. And I say this to folks, and they're just like, well, that's the strategy that we came up with at the board level, and this really isn't a conversation I'm going to have with you. So I just shut up. But it's really hard to see that, because you can't perfect 50 different things at once.
You know what's funny is that I feel like that it's funny when you say focus, because it's not that complex, but it's really hard to do, because you always have, you know, somebody on the board says, hey, you should do this thing. So then everyone has to hop to do what the board member thinks is best. And then you have a CRO who watches a sales call and then figures out that one call of a stage is the one that everyone needs to work on. So you hop to that thing. It's like there's so much reactive focus that's lost that is crazy to think about, you know. And to be fair, it's no one's fault. I've done the same thing. You know, it's just kind of, you always fall into the point of firefighting versus trying to be really strategic. It's difficult to do. Just like AI strategy in general, it takes time to do a really good AI strategy. You don't just throw in a tool and think you're going to magically transform the business. It takes time to make sure you're in the right spot that makes the biggest difference for your company, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so I want to bounce the same question off of you, because like, I'm not coming on here pretending to be the world's expert in AI. I feel like you might be.
I'm the biggest nerd, not expert. I'll say nerd. How about that?
And to me, like, it just feels like we're in this state right now, and I've seen this so many times where it's like, oh, we just spun up like we vibe coded this agent over the weekend, we spun this up, we hired this like team to like slap this together, and you're like, okay, like let's see how this works in 6 months. And when I look at the people that are like, we built an AI agent and it's really like making an impact. I'm not talking about like everybody's got like a Claude license and they go and do account research. Like, that's cool. That's great. Everybody should be doing that. But I'm talking about like an enterprise level agent or application that runs across the entire org, that has a concrete set of instructions that are shared, and it's working and it's driving real impact in the organization. To me, that requires a level of dedication and focus that I oftentimes don't see. And I'll give an even easier to understand example of this. I've posted about this multiple times on LinkedIn. I worked with about 300 customers at Salesforce, and I would say about half of them were not using Salesforce. Like, they're basically wasting their money. They just had this database, a bunch of people in there, and I could literally see that their salespeople never logged in. And across 3 years and 300 companies, like, what's the commonality there? It really just came down to like the CRO or the equivalent saying, we're going to make this work, and we're going to work with our implementation partner or our internal team, our managers, marketing, et cetera, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get this thing working to the point that the whole team is using it and we've got like a clean pipeline. And then the other half just didn't do that. They just delegated it off, and then they're busy doing other things. And you call them 6 months later, and it's like, how's Salesforce going? And like, well, we still can't get anybody to use it. And I'm like, there's a really simple way to get people to use Salesforce. Fire everybody that doesn't use Salesforce. It's super effective. And then, right. People raise an eyebrow at that, and it's like, okay, Eddie, like, this is a bit draconian. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you haven't done the foundational work, if you've given them this like dumpster fire, and then you're threatening to fire them for not using it, well, then, that's on you. But if you've done all the right things and built everything out, and you're like, this is how we do business, and if you don't do it this way, you're fired. I mean, that's how I run my business. And I've hired so many people that have never seen Salesforce before, and we give them like 10 minutes of training, and that's it, and we're done. It's just not hard, because we built it in a simple way, and we train them on the thing that they actually have to do, and we remind them of it if they forget, and it's just not difficult. And I'll ask you, is AI really any different from that fundamentally?
No, it's not. I mean, I would even say a lot of the times when people do AI, it's the items that's actually taking away things to do, and change. Like, the change management is more them adjusting to what they don't have to do anymore versus having to do more stuff. That's a lot of the change, which I like, Yeah, but it's just it's the core basic principles are the same thing. Like, here's what this does. This is why we did it. This is how easy it is to do it. Let us know if you have questions. If it's more beyond than that, well, you have some major problems, But to be fair, though, there's some companies that have gotten so big and so robust. Like, I'll give you an example. We had a customer of ours that has probably one of the best RevOps enablement teams I've seen. I've seen a lot of good teams. And they can't keep up because their product team uses Claude Code and is pumping out so much content, or not content, but product, that is, it's hard for them to keep up with, you know? So like, it's not a matter of just simple show and click and you're done. It's like, there's just so much volume of things happening. You just got to rethink how you're enabling your teams or making sure they're ready so that even when you have an advanced, and they're a pretty AI native team, that you're ready for the change or volume of whatever might be changing in the marketplace or even with your own product, which is, it's a problem they haven't solved yet, but it's just figuring out what do you do in that circumstance, you know? So
it's interesting. I mean, another thing that I've seen is like, I have this like real hesitation of this idea that we're going to have sales reps like vibe coding their own solutions in Claude Code, and everybody's going to be running a separate application running off their desktop. And I'm like, even ignoring security issues, how do we make our entire organization more efficient if we don't have, and it just goes back into this argument of having like a centralized development of AI tools specifically in go-to-market versus like having it decentralized where everybody just comes up with their own ideas. And I think people coming up with ideas is really great, but how do you take that from the MVP to the enterprise level where you're like, okay, we've got the right security in place, we've got the right data and information, we've got the right context, we've got the right prompts, we've tested and reiterated on it, we've got like a loop where we can improve this over time. And to me, that's an engineering challenge that goes way beyond what an individual sales rep or marketer can figure out on their own.
Yeah, it's a good conversation to have because like we're in this mode of the Wild West where people are saying, go play with AI. And so they'll have times where like a sales rep will spend literally 300 hours making this coaching agent. I mean, a lot of hours doing this thing that you could have gotten a tool like Momentum for, saved his time, let him go sell. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just figuring out where do you want the energy to go, and is that the best use of time and whatever tech stack you have available, you know? So, yeah,
well, and I mean,
crazy.
This is how I learned Salesforce. Like I built my own version of Salesforce primarily when I was between jobs, and I was using Salesforce to try to find a job. And I think honestly, I was like learning how to build stuff in Salesforce because like job hunting is so depressing and awful that I just wanted something else to do. And I look back on it, even at the time, I was like, this is not a good use of my time. And then after spending years and years learning Salesforce, I started this company and I implemented Salesforce for our first 3 customers. And then I hired somebody that actually knew what they were doing. And I was like, oh my God, this person is running circles around me. Like I remember our first project, I sold this customer like 25 hours. And this guy that I hired, Samir, he calls me up and he's like, hey man, I just spent 3 hours with this client. Everything's done. What do you want me to do with the other 22 hours? And I was like, how did you get this done in 3 hours?
How'd you do that?
He's like, how did you think this was going to take 25? It's so just funny. Like the difference between a professional and somebody who's like tinkering, you know?
Yeah. I feel that way with a lot of AI stuff sometimes. I'm like, why are you doing it like that? That couldn't have to take that long. It's kind of crazy. Well, tell me this before you bail, because I'll ask one more question. No, I'll ask you 2 more questions. If you had the ear of the CROs listening or leaders on with marketing or whoever, what do you suggest doing with AI right now? Like, what's the things you would do to say someone from your seat of consulting all these different companies, how to think about it? What would you do? What would you say?
The first thing I would say is I think it's the wrong question. I think that the answer might be AI, but I don't think the question should be what should we do with AI. The question should be, what should we do to improve our go-to-market so that we can hit our number and consistently perform? If the answer happens to be AI, then that's great. But to me, it's the difference between trying to figure out how to architect a house and grabbing a hammer and looking for nails. And so if we say the number one thing we need to do is improve our close rate on the pipeline that we're already generating or improve our ability to forecast, then the next question is, what do we need to do in order to do that? And then we might land on a place where we say, wow, there's a way that we could use AI to dramatically improve this. Now, another lens we could look through this is how do we save reps a bunch of time so they can spend more time selling? That's cool, but I don't really care how much time reps spend selling if we're not ultimately solving the biggest problem. Like, if I double the amount of time reps are selling, but their close rate's 5%, I don't think that's the win I'm looking for. I'd rather just like figure out how we could close more deals in less time.
You know what's funny is I love that you said it's the wrong question, because usually when people ask me, I say it a different way, but it's exactly right. Like it's always about what, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what the business metrics are and how do you move them, you know? And it could be AI, and it could just be you being a better leader or having a better process or whatever that may or may not use AI, you know? So,
But let me double down on this real quick, because the thing I would say is that if you answer this question, you say, okay, our number one priority is that we need to improve our close rate on the pipeline that we're generating today, and we think we probably want to find a way to use AI to do that, that's cool. But what you're ultimately going to end up with is if you say we are going to focus all of the additional resources that we have on that one thing, and come hell or high water, we're going to get it done, then maybe you'll try an AI agent and it will fail. And maybe you'll iterate on that and it'll still fail. And maybe you'll try again and it'll succeed, or maybe it'll still fail. But one way or another, you will figure out how to improve that close rate, at least to a point where it's pretty damn good, because you've focused all of your resources on that thing. But if you're just like, what AI agent can we build? Then it's really easy to like go down that path, and then like it falls apart and you're like, oh, we got to go chase this other shiny object over here now because, oh my God, our close rate dropped even further. We're not going to hit our number. We got to go figure this out. And here I was over here trying to build this AI agent, and I got this number that I have to hit.
That's exactly right. Well, I love it, man. Best places to find you, obviously LinkedIn. I'll have your URL in the, gosh, I can't talk. I'll have your profile link in the show notes. Anywhere else that's best for you? And you have the podcast.
Yeah,
So
Go
I'll
to
make sure I
Market
have that too.
Science on Apple and Spotify. And then you can also check out the framework at I forgot my own company name. unionsquareconsulting.com/frameworks.
Love it. I'll include all of them in the show notes to make it easier for people. But if you don't see the show notes, then obviously there you go. Eddie, my man, thank you so much. Like, I love what you do. And oh, one more thing. I did want to ask you this before we left. You had that spicy post about, did anything get resolved?
Yeah, like, well, it was so funny because, like, if anybody didn't see this, basically what had happened was Salesforce retired Quip. We were using it primarily just because we're a Salesforce partner and we wanted to use their product and show loyalty. And then they just decided to sunset it. And at the time I got the email that it sunset, it just stopped working. And I reached out and I'm like, hey, this thing doesn't even work anymore. Can you cancel my contract and refund me the money that you just charged me for this product that literally doesn't work? And I like first reach out to the AI agent. It like doesn't respond with anything useful. So then I reach out to my renewals manager. I get no response there. So then finally I email Mark Benioff, which I've never done in like the almost 15 years since I started working at Salesforce. I get this executive escalations response, and she's like, hey, what contract are you on? And when is your contract up? And you know, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, don't you have a CRM to answer these questions? And so I just like was venting on LinkedIn. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then I got 260,000 views and like hundreds of people reaching out to me, and like senior executives at Salesforce reaching out. And I'm like, this is a simple email. I was just giving her a hard time for not like answering her own questions first. This is very easy to resolve, but it is funny that it went viral because I think so many other people identified with this, and they're like, wait, didn't Salesforce just fire like 4,000 people so they could replace them with AI agents? And you're saying that's breaking down? And it's like, yeah, unfortunately that was my experience.
Yeah. I appreciate, like, one thing I appreciate about you for people listening is that you're very honest in your, like, you're not trying to be, what's the word? You know, some people like to be controversial for virality. Like, you're not doing that. You're just doing it because you're like, hey, this is what's going on. And it happened to go, you know, hit a little bit harder. So, anyways, I just appreciate about this. You're just always very real and open with what you're thinking, you know. Even
Well, thanks. I mean, I do really love debating people. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. It's fun.
It's funny because you're so nice. I was actually, when we did the podcast, I was actually expecting you to want to debate me, and you're like the nicest guy ever. Like, okay, well, that was easy.
I'm not going to bring you onto my podcast to just like shit all over your ideas. But I like a healthy debate.
I've had a couple of those, like, I mean, I don't know, we're just rambling now, but I've had a couple of podcasts where they said, we're going to debate, I'm going to record. I'm like, okay, let's go. So, you know, that's how it goes. That might be fun, actually. You probably should have a GTM. Maybe we should do it. Maybe you and I should have one where we take on like the spiciest takes and just say, we're going to debate who we're going to invite, and let's debate them. That'd be fun.
We'd have to find a difference of opinion. And the thing is, like, I haven't found anything that you've said that I disagree with yet. You know?
What we should do is maybe we'll be the host and we'll introduce other people and say, hey, okay, you come on, we'll debate on something spicy. But there you go. We'll have Mark on to talk about it.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
We'll see. I'll just email him. He'll be fine. Hey, Mark, let's come on a podcast. Let's debate. But thank you. Again, sincerely, you're nothing but, as always, such a good person to be around. And I just appreciate you taking the time. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to join this podcast. This is awesome.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.